Welcome to Seat Time, everybody, the off-road show that brings you all the results, news, and online shenanigans that make being online a good time. We'd like to say thank you to Fly Racing for their support of Seat Time. Please go check them out at flyracing.com. Welcome to Seat Time, everybody. This is episode 165, and luckily enough, it is presented and brought to you by the fine folks over at Fly Racing, where you can learn more about them at flyracing.com. Of course, we do have other fun sponsors that take care of us here at Seat Time. Kenda Tire USA, you can find out more about those guys at kendatire.com. And they were title sponsor of the Sprint Enduro this past weekend over there in West Virginia.
Full Gas Sprint Enduro.
The Full Gas Sprint Enduro, yes. That was put on by the Kenda. Yeah. Where is it? On the stop. That's where it is.
Full gas.
Full gas. Full gas. I like it. And, of course, the fine folks over at Stillwell Performance. You can learn more about them at stillwellperformance.com. I did get my suspension in. You guys probably saw the little video that I posted up on the Instagrams. If not, you're more than welcome to check it out at Woody B. Pierced. But I have not had a chance to ride the bike, unfortunately. We have had family this, family that, life this, life that going on. I'm actually going to see if there's a chance I can bring my bike with me to ride at the farm on Friday after work. But guess what? It's probably going to be raining.
It's going to be raining because it's North Texas and it's springtime, and all you get is
luckily
rain
we're getting water because the past 4 years it's been dry as shit, and then the summers suck. So
it'd be nice to ride though.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
It would. I agree. So, obviously, Fly Racing, Stillwell Performance, and Kenda Tire USA, thank you very much for your support. This is Seat Time. We are the online show for the off-road enthusiasts. If you enjoyed beer drinking, bench racing, chatting with your friends about how much better you are when they're not there to watch you at the races, this is most definitely the show for you. Because I sound like a fast racer, don't I, when I talk to you about what I did? But in reality, I'm not. And that's what it's all about. It's the perception of being a fast rider.
Perception means a lot. Yeah. It's important.
It's intimidation factor, I think.
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. Oh, let's just bring it on out. I like it. So, for those of you who have wondered, we did say it's the beer drinking bench racing show, but because of the fact that it is Happy Cinco de Mayo, we're having some really shitty margaritas that I handmade.
Really bad margaritas.
I did spend the last 30 minutes of myself at work from about 4:30 to 5 figuring out which kind of homemade margarita setup I wanted to go with. Because in reality, you go get one of those margarita mixes, the amount of shit that's in that's anything natural it's nothing. So I was like, I at least want to make some form of a natural margarita. And unfortunately, I picked the wrong one.
Well, that shit does make it taste better.
And bullshit.
There is some value in that.
You know what's funny is that one of the things he's like, we need some sugar. So I was like, okay, well, how about some honey? The reason why I said honey is because in one of those ingredients or one of those recipes, they did use honey as the sweetener because of the fact that it has obviously less calories and all the other bullshit that goes along with why I don't drink sugar.
I just don't see honey as a good flavor for margarita.
Let's go try it sometime.
We'll try it next.
You are the tequila connoisseur.
Next drink, yeah, okay.
So for those of you who are wondering why this gentleman is doing such a fantastic job of keeping up with my chatter skills, this is Brian Storrie. Brian Storrie was owner of a shop west of town. Luckily enough, he figured out, holy shit, Brian Pierce can't even buy motorcycle tubes in his part of town, and opened up a new shop here in McKinney, Texas called Adventure Moto as well. Multiple time ISDE club rider. Never on the trophy team, though.
Junior team once.
Yeah, that's true. Way back in the day.
Yep. Just many times club time, and very proud to go and very excited to go every chance I get to go.
Yep.
And it's just an indescribable thing. Once you get to go, it's something that's addictive and you always want to go back.
It's like getting a tattoo.
Yeah. Sort of.
Do you have any tattoos?
Different. I have one tattoo.
So for you, it's nothing like getting a tattoo. Because if you have one tattoo, then it's nothing like getting a tattoo.
I have a 6 days plan for a tattoo. So eventually there will be a 6 days tattoo.
Why don't you just get one every time you go, and then they...
That's what we're gonna get. We're gonna get little stamps for all.
Why haven't you been doing it? What's the deal here?
Procrastination. Pretty sure it's just that.
Attempting to live life.
Yeah.
Obviously not to the fullest.
Yeah, I'd rather ride than get a tattoo, and there's not enough time to ride.
Well, you're faster than me, so I think it's working for you.
I try. So, but yours is personal issues, so you need to ride more.
One day I'll just stop sucking. At riding, anyway. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think you suck.
So, for those guys...
Not at that.
What's that? I don't suck at riding?
Yeah.
You don't think that I suck much? Those are Friday and Saturday nights, folks. Or if you tune into our other show, Thursday nights. So, of course, we do have the chat room. tlk.io/seattime is a way that you can kind of help direct the show. We're going to have Russell Bobbitt on here in a little bit. I did want to talk to Brian about his experience attending the full Gas Sprint Enduro. We've had Jason Hooper on, we've had Caleb Russell, and we've chatted with them about the events that they've put on last year and earlier this year. But now that we've had a Texan, somebody I do like having on the show, a lot of experience with motorcycles and being able to tell you why you suck at them, it's going to be fun to be able to chat with him. So, of course, jump in the chat room and help us direct that conversation once Bobby gets on here. And then I wanted a big shout out to our friend Barry, a dude that I met on the Rip to Cabo. Just randomly decided to donate some money to Seat Time, and I really, really appreciate that. So definitely got to give him a shout out for doing that. Yeah,
super cool.
I agree. And you forgot what you were supposed to bring.
Camera.
Yep.
GoPro.
Son of a bitch. Have to go get it tomorrow. Some of the shit that just happened. Obviously, the ISDE East Qualifier was this past weekend in West Virginia. That was the round 2 of the Full Gas Sprint Enduro. National Hare and Hound round 5 happened in Jericho, Utah, where we saw Ricky Brabeck get another win, Ramirez and Sutherland in third. And then I saw many other racers doing lots of local racing all over the place. A lot of the big names that you would see, like the Chris Box, Chris Douglases, Stuart Baylors, of that nature, out and about doing different types of racing. And we saw a lot of guys at the Sprint Enduro. So before I continue to try to talk too much about my margarita, it being Cinco de Mayo, and all the other awesome shit that is going on in the world, how are you doing?
I'm good.
You sore?
I'm sore. Yeah, I'm sore, and I'm still tired. I put in a pretty poor amount of prep getting ready for Sprint Enduro.
Zero?
Because it didn't sound really hard doing 25, 30 miles each day. Sounded pretty easy for someone that's done 6 days a bunch of times and
right.
a whole bunch of other stuff, and surprisingly intense and ass whipping of a race when you're not prepared.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
and from here in North Texas, you had what, a 17-hour drive to get to West Virginia?
it took us like 19 hours because of some traffic issues to get there.
And
but,
probably too many poop stops. Grab some almonds here and there, a couple coffees.
My driving partner had a small bladder, so that really slowed things
I always
down.
tell people I have a small bladder, but if you're willing to stop and get me a Gatorade with a wide bottle container or wide mouth container,
I wasn't down with that.
Like, you hold it, I'll pee in it.
No, I wasn't down with that concept. So, but no, but the Sprint Enduro, the whole concept was really cool. Was really exciting to me. My buddy Travis Chris that went with us, he's on the board of directors for Texas Enduros. He was really curious to see what it was like. It's a great concept. You can do it on a small property. So you can do it on the size property you do a normal cross country or hare scramble race, but it's nothing like that. It's still like you're racing an enduro. You just don't have the transfer sections, and it almost I felt the next day almost more like I did a big motocross race than I did an enduro, because the short tests are so intense.
Make it so much more intense. Yeah, that's what we've been hearing a lot. Yeah.
And then we ran the same, just like at 6 days, you ran this. It was a bunch of fast guys running the same test over and over. And so fast guys on the throttle hard, on the brakes hard, tend to tear up the dirt a lot.
Yeah.
And then it rained apparently all day Thursday and Thursday night and Friday morning. So the dirt was prepped by God. It was
brownie dirt.
It was pretty epic, yeah. So, and epic dirt, of course, tears up even more.
Yes,
it gets
indeed.
rougher. So, but anyway, super cool format. Excited. I hope to see more of this. I hope to see this series grow. I think the people putting it on are doing a good job. I think they're still learning as they're going, because the circuit's pretty new, but they're doing really well. And they put a lot of effort into it. Had 2 different kinds of tests. There were only 2 tests there. There was a cross test, which is what they're called at 6 days. We here in the U.S. we call them grass tracks,
right?
But in Europe they call them cross tests, and a lot of times they can include a part of a motocross track or all of a moto track. But traditionally, it's just a grass track.
Okay.
And the guys laid out an awesome, grass track on top of it, of a couple of rolling hills. I think it was only about 2.5 miles long, but still was had every different shape of turn that you could have, and because it was up on the hill and out in the sun, it actually dried out, and so it was brownie batter for a while, but then dried out, so it was literally different every time you went into it.
Nice. And you rode. We were saying they did the 2 tests. We're talking about the cross test now, but you actually rode 2 tests 4 times each day, and then we did them backwards the next day.
And then Sunday we did them backwards.
Okay.
I think the common perception is if you suddenly go backwards on one of these tracks, it's going to be awkward for some reason. And that's not always true. I have done tracks backwards at 6 days before, and sometimes they're awkward and sometimes they're not. And the cross test and the enduro test turned around backwards actually went faster than they did the direction they had us running them the first day. So it wasn't,
and that could be so many different things. Maybe the way it was laid out, just the way that it was the way that the turns were laid out, the way that the berms built up, the lack of braking bumps, too many braking bumps, so people went wider.
Right.
All kinds of weird shit that could...
Yeah, just angles coming into corners and line of sight. When you're running a grass track, you're trying to look as far ahead as possible. You're trying to line up your turns so you exit a turn in the right spot to be able to enter the next turn correctly to carry a nice arc everywhere. And so if you can see a little farther ahead, and I see the same thing. There's a road race track here in Texas that the local clubs race 2 directions.
Okay. In
one direction, you can see all the corners coming, and the other direction, all the corners are blind. And it's can be the same way with a grass track or something like that. And so if you can obviously see where you're going, when you see farther away, your mind naturally lets you push the limits a little bit more and carry more speed in.
Yeah, you're like, I can't see anything. Full gas, bro.
Yeah,
full gas.
Yeah, and once you hit the senior class, that full gas rolls off real quick when you can't see where you're going.
So somebody was asking like what lengthwise to complete each test ish. So if you did the cross test, about like that, and then the enduro test, how long do you think those were kind of taking everybody?
The cross test, most people were running it in the 5-minute range. So
that's a good little test,
like
especially for sprinting.
Russ, who should be joining us later, and Caleb and Thad Duvall and Buttrick and some of those other guys, they were running them in the low 5 minutes, around 5:10s, and but in the and then there was quite a range, and your A riders that were like rookie A riders were probably running in the high 5-minute range, in the 5:50s and whatnot. But most everybody was in the 5-minute range on the cross test, and then the enduro test was about twice that long. And the enduro test was exactly what you would expect to see in an enduro test if you were running a traditional enduro. It had a little grass track in and a little grass track out, but you went into the woods, lots of elevation up and down. You got into a few spots with a little bit of tight trees, but not a lot. Most of it you could have rode a 4-wheeler through.
Okay.
There were spots where they got down into some bottoms, and due to the moisture that week, the ground was really spongy,
right,
and the bikes were really tearing it up and roots were coming out. There were a couple of uphills that were really soft that ended up with a 2-foot deep rut, for 100 feet all the way up the hill, winding back and forth with roots.
And you're like dog paddling?
Yeah, you literally were dog paddling. You were dog paddling, and your butt was trying to slide off the seat, and you're trying to go fast, and you're the only way you can stay on the bike is holding with your arms, and you get to the top of these hills, and you're
totally gassed.
Yeah, your hands are just noodles, and you're like, okay, I know there's hands down there somewhere, but I can't feel them.
Time to hold on with my knees. Oh, those are done too. Shit.
But yeah, it was typical enduro terrain, but the tests being as short as they were, just the intensity level was extremely, extremely high. So, I mean, everybody's pulling the trigger out of every corner. It's not, it's just not your traditional enduro pace. It's full sprint. Everybody knows the tests are short, so they are pulling the trigger as hard as they can out of every turn.
Right on.
So it's a very intense. It was exciting and it was fun, and they fire off a rider every 15 seconds in both the cross test and the enduro test. And what they would do, they started us all by class, and then after the first 2 tests, they rearranged us by overall time based on how we did in the first 2 tests. And so at that point, there was a whole lot less passing going on because you were taking off in order of speed to that point, which is good. You really don't want to catch or be caught.
Right.
Because when you get caught, you lose time getting out of the way. When you catch somebody, you lose time waiting for them to get out of the way. So you really want to find a happy spot where you can charge hard and hopefully make up ground on the guy in front of you, but you don't actually want to catch him because it's going to cost you time.
Yep.
So
no, that makes a lot of sense. And that's one of the things I don't think a lot of people pay attention to is what they're going to get when they talk about the fact that, you're kind of trying to find that happy medium in the lineup to make sure that you're going fast, but it's that fast that doesn't let you catch anybody or be caught kind of fast.
Right. And due
now,
to
if it does because you're that much faster, pass them. But
right. You always want to catch the guy in front of you and pass him, but it's not always going to happen.
Right.
Right. But anyway, I've done a whole bunch of 6 days, and I've just over the years I've always been better at cross tests than enduro tests. And anyway, I would basically pick riders each time that I knew. I would pick a rider to go in front of me that I knew I wouldn't catch every time. And I would try to chase him and make up ground on him, but I would typically pick a rider I knew I wouldn't catch so I wouldn't have to lose time waiting for him to move out of the way and try to pass him. And you do a lot of qualifiers and you kind of learn over the years you learn who's who and learn who's good at what. And I would follow a different guy into the cross tests each time than I would follow into the enduro tests.
So how many times have you passed Russell Bobbitt, in these tests?
Yeah, I didn't get to ride with Russ. So
he's not
Russ,
somebody you would have jumped in front of and been like,
buddy,
I'm going in front of you.
I'm pretty sure I would follow Russ every time. Yeah, I feel pretty solid about that one.
So, Russ, what about you? If you felt like you might be off your game one day, do you think you just gracefully be like, "It's okay, Mr. Storrie, age before beauty"?
Yeah, sure.
No, Russ was pretty much taking off top 2 or 3 all weekend long. So he spent a whole bunch of time chasing Caleb this weekend.
That's what it sounded like. Well, dude, Mr. Russell Bobbitt, welcome to the show. I have to just ask because it's been a long time. How have you been, dude?
I've been really good, dude. I appreciate you having me on the show, and things have been going great here. Just been doing pretty well at the races recently and having some fun in the kind of weekends in between the races and doing that kind of stuff. So pretty happy at the moment.
Wicked. Yeah, I know. We haven't really had a chance to catch up, unfortunately. I remember last year we were super excited to see the new Husqvarna off-road team, see how that was going to kind of evolve. Unfortunately, that first National Enduro, you come out there and break your patella. That's one thing we haven't really had a chance to talk about, so I kind of want to touch just on that recovery, what that took. And then you did really good at the end of last year when you did get a chance to come back. I think it was a 6th at the second to last National Enduro, and then you won Indiana. So, I mean, that had to have been a lot of...
pretty solid win 2 weeks ago, too.
Well, yeah, and then we come into 2015, and he's obviously kicking ass, but then we get on the KTMs, and there's a lot of switching and stuff like that. So, I mean, that patella thing, it's just kind of like, I broke my kneecap, bummer. But, I mean, that's a pretty serious deal, right?
Yeah, it was definitely my biggest injury I've ever had. It took the longest to come back from, I guess compared to any of the other injuries I've had. And it not only just shattered my kneecap, but I guess when you do that, it severed my quad tendon. So that is completely detached, and they have to actually, pull that back down and reconnect it, and you start all over and have to, do the physical therapy to regain that muscle size and strength again. So just that was a lot more of the process than the actual bone healing.
Man.
The Spark, kind of the sports performance and rehabilitation center that I worked at in Athens, they've done an amazing job with me, just helping me get back to, the strength. And that's how I could rebound at the end of last year and do so well. We put in the correct amount of work and time, and I felt confident. And once I kind of did that first race and Big Buck, and I felt kind of things out a little bit, got sixth there, and I was pretty happy with that. I felt like I rode a little conservative, and then at the final round in Indiana, things were clicking again, and everything worked out well.
Got the win. Yeah, no, it was super shitty, obviously, for you to see that. For me to watch you get that injury, I was so bummed. But what's crazy is, I really thought that you were going to be a Husky rider again for 2015, and it seemed like maybe there were other people that thought that too. And you kind of it seemed like the press release out of nowhere, bam, you're going to be a KTM rider for 2015. Was that when did all that come about for you? Was that surprise? Was it pretty much the plan from the beginning? Talk us a little bit through that.
Yeah, so kind of. It definitely wasn't in the works long. I mean, just the way things were playing out between some of the riders on both the Husqvarna and the KTM team, and kind of where I was at that and what they were looking for to fill. It just worked out that kind of Grant was going to be leaving KTM and going to Yamaha, and then Husqvarna was growing as a company as well, so they were looking to take on, some more riders with, some of the sponsors for their team that, played a little bit of a role in it as well. And then KTM, I think they just, they were pumped to have me back on as to contest the Enduro series. They, definitely believe in me, and I have a strong history with KTM at heart as the company. So, I'm, definitely happy to be back kind of at the roots where I began my professional career. And, I'm stoked with the way things are going with the team now.
Yeah. Now, Brian, have you guys ridden any of the 6 days together? I know you said you started out junior trophy team, but he might have been still hanging out inside of his father at that point in his life.
He was on trophy team one or more of the years that I was a club rider on the team. So yeah, we've been on the team a couple of times.
So you have good rapport with the Bobbitt? You think that you guys are?
He's a very, very good dude. So
I would agree. It's pretty neat seeing him back on KTM, isn't it? Like I agree with what he's saying, that it's neat to be back where he started, got his roots, all that kinds of stuff, because it looks normal. Like the Husky colors and.
Well, the only thing that doesn't look normal to me when I look at Russ on a KTM,
I know what you're gonna say. I know
it's the 350.
Yeah. Yep, it's different. Being on the 4-stroke and off of the 2-stroke, it's a big change. And I noticeably ride a little bit different, and really. Gotta say though, I'm loving the 350. Sometimes I do kind of miss my 2-stroke. Definitely there's times where I go out and ride my 150 here at the house and just have to swing off of it. So, but I love the bike that I'm on now. I mean, I feel like it's super competitive. I mean, that's the reason I'm riding it.
It's the Goldilocks bike. It does everything well. It's not too much and not too little. The 350 does it all good.
Yeah, I just purchased a 2015 350 XC from Brian shop here at Adventure Moto, and had been riding the 300 XCs for 5 years. Because it's about 5 years. And so far, one ride on the bike, unfortunately, just because of rain and family and life. But I was pleasantly surprised that one weekend that I got to ride the bike, how well I responded to it. And had a lot of fun riding it. So I look forward to one day being able to ride it a second time. We'll see.
What do you think the 350 does better with your riding style?
Ooh.
I mean, what I noticed just straight away when I hopped on a 350 just to ride one for the first time was just how well they stay planted. I think, coming out of corners and once you get on the gas, the amount of traction it gives you and the confidence in accelerating to get to that next point, you stay in a straighter line. And I was pretty much just blown away with how comfortable I felt on a stock 350 when I got on it. I was like, the power is amazing. The suspension was good. I thought everything as a package, like, just worked almost just better, like, out of the box. Like, the way the bike actually handled and everything, like, as a whole package, the way it handled and cornered and just everything seemed to be much smoother versus that kind of twitchy kind of two-stroke feel that you will get from it being so nimble and everything. So I guess what you asked is how it kind of affects my riding style is I sit more in the bike versus on top of the two-stroke and really controlling it as much. Like, I have to kind of be at one with it more so.
To me, the four-stroke feels less hectic than the two-stroke does
Okay.
in almost every way. I think
Yeah.
that's a simple way to put it.
I can tell you it sits the same in my garage because I've only ridden it once. So
Yeah, that's
one day I'll be able to have more opinions on that motorcycle.
personal issues again.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm not making excuses. It's just a fact of life, and it sucks. But hey,
Right. Hey, are the Sprint Enduros in your contract with KTM, or is that your choice to go do those?
The Sprint Enduros were my secondary series this year. Yep.
Very cool.
Okay, so so you and Charles are at all of them, huh?
We'll be at every single one this year, definitely.
Awesome. Okay.
that's wicked.
Yeah.
That's wicked. That right there should say that with it being in its first full season, how much that series is going to grow. If that's in his official KTM contract over something like the OMAs,
Absolutely. When you see guys like Russell and Caleb and their guys Tanner and Charles there with the truck, it just adds a little bit more prestige to the
Yeah.
event when you see factory KTM supporting a series like that. And when you roll in, it feels like, and you see the setup and you see the banners and you see the big Kenda Tire and everything. It looks good. I mean, the pictures I posted on Facebook got a great reaction. It looks it's real deal, and the way they're running the thing is they're doing really well. The guys running it were listening to the riders and constantly asking. I'd never been to one before, but he knew I'd been to a lot of 6 days, so
Right.
Jason was asking me, "Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" I appreciate it when promoters are curious and they want to hear what we've seen. And Russ, I don't know what you thought, but looking at the cross test, the thing that jumped out at me at the cross test was, yes, it was a great grass track. The only difference I really saw in it and a European 6 days grass track is it seemed like it was a little slower and had a lot of tight, like 180 corners where it was hard braking in, hard acceleration out. What I seem to remember at 6 days is more a little bit higher speed and more sweeping turns, carrying momentum around big, fast turns. Did that jump out at you at all? Did we lose him?
he's thinking about it.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, we lost him.
We lost him.
That's interesting though. So let's see if we can get him back really quick. But so you're saying that those little bit tighter sections
Yeah,
are not traditional in Europe.
The cross test, I mean, it was epic fun.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was an absolute blast to run. But when just thinking about the cross test itself and how it compared to most of what I had seen in Europe, is it was a little bit tighter and a lot more tight turns. So you would hard brake into a turn and it would be a 180 or just a really tight turn of some. And when I say tight, I mean a tight degree turn.
Right,
I mean
yeah.
you could have drove a car through it. It wasn't narrow.
It's not that they were like, let's just
Yeah,
make
it wasn't
this
narrow.
different.
But it was a very sharp turn, which also would create hard acceleration zone coming out of. And typically when you watch the Euros layout tracks, they have a little bit more sweeping, and there will still be some 180 turns, but not that many of them.
Right.
More sweeping turns, more carrying momentum, more like fourth gear sweepers where you're trying to figure out where the edge is as you're on the gas going around this fourth gear sweeper. And this one was more accelerate really hard. And it was tricky though, because there were a lot of rolling hills, and so it might be off camber, but you'd be braking hard into a turn, making another tight 180, accelerating really hard, braking hard into a tight turn, accelerating really hard.
Right.
There weren't a lot of turns where you were trying to figure out how hard you could push around a high-speed sweeper type deal. And you see a lot of that in Europe, where you'll be carrying lots of momentum like that.
Well, when we lost you there, Bobbitt, that's kind of one of the things that Brian was wondering what you thought about some of that. And obviously, it's not a negative or anything like that.
No,
obviously, it's
super
still tons
fun
of fun,
track.
and it's almost just differentiated a little bit too from the European style. But maybe over there, they said that you might be carrying more momentum, and a lot of the turns probably are going to be more sweeping style, where there's going to be less
It
braking.
seemed like
in
a
and
little
less...
bit slower grass track than what we typically run in Europe at a 6 days. It seems like at 6 days we'll be a gear higher than we were in that grass track.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from for that. I mean, they're, thinking back to several grass tracks that have been at 6 days. I mean, I feel like they have a lot more room to work with, and generally a lot more people working the events as well. So,
That's true.
I mean, I think Jason, working with what he is this first year, pounding 3,000 additional stakes. I think he did at this race. I mean, he's doing a great amount of work.
Oh, yeah.
It was super fun grass track. I was just he asked me what was different about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I'm not saying that that's the reason that they are what they are, to get kind of more mileage out of the test or something. But I agree with you. I mean, there's some tests I remember, at 6 days where you're in a corner for 30 seconds. It feels like one of those huge escargots in Germany or something,
Right.
and it's just like a berm that goes for seriously, it feels like a quarter mile. You're just turning right. But they're super fast over there. But then there's also tight chicane stuff. Like, I like how he's done the kind of start and finishes of them. How there's some of those really annoying tight 90s, and where you want to smash your hand on all the stakes at the end, because that's pretty traditional. But I guess there are those higher speed grass tracks where it is all about carrying momentum versus the stop and go a little bit more.
Right. Was the enduro test at this one, was it pretty representative of what you've seen at the enduro tests at the other Kenda full gas sprint enduros?
Yeah, I would say so. It's roughly a skid steer wide, kind of running some forest road kind of speed stuff, and then he even threw in a little bit of single track. So that was a nice mix of things, and I feel like it is pretty much like in a world enduro style enduro test. This one, particularly with the elevation and everything, it reminded me a lot of some of the enduro tests. Like, even when I did the 6 days in Slovakia, there were kind of those places that were super dark and super dark dirt and just really rough kind of GNCC like style sections, and so I felt like it was appropriate.
It was pretty close to what me and you ran in Germany as well. We ran some stuff that was real similar to that. And just the roots coming up out of the spongy soil, and it went on Saturday. The direction we went, some of those uphills really got some good ruts all the way up them, so it got pretty gnarly in spots.
It did. It definitely got rough. I mean, I thought the enduro test was much rougher the first day that we did it, just with the way the hills were laid out, and those kind of rutted hills were more difficult going up them that direction, where on the second day when we flipped them around backwards, I thought it kind of just made it a little bit more manageable in some sections.
Well, for my poorly trained self, it was much easier on Sunday getting to go down those hills instead of having to hang on going up them. I thought the whole thing flowed a lot better on Sunday and took a lot less effort. So I think I could go full speed maybe 2/3 of the way through the test on Sunday versus half the way through the test on Saturday.
Is that what Sean would say too?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's-
He's about
that's my-
2/3 of the
my
way
life,
into
by
it,
the
and he's
way.
ready to be out of there. Son of a. Well, okay, so Russ, one of the questions I was thinking about while we were talking about this is what Brian was talking about earlier on. Is he, 25, 30 miles a day. Numbers wise, from some of the enduros that you've done in the past, I've done in the past, and we know he's done in the past, that doesn't sound like a lot of mileage. And it doesn't sound like something that you're going to get done with at the end of the day and just be exhausted or totally spent or just like, holy shit, I've been going really fast all day. But tell us what you think at the end of a day like that. A professional like yourself, we know is in shape. We know can ride a dirt bike extremely fast. Now, how does someone like yourself feel at the end of those 25, 30 miles?
I mean, in regards to kind of like physically, it's, you still feel like you've done something. I mean, you're riding at that top sprint level, so you're definitely going to fatigue some. And with the amount that we did on the first day, 8 tests, by the end of that, I mean, especially kind of as it's drugged throughout the day, it's wearing, I think as much or more mentally on you than what it is physically, because each time you're going into the test, you're thinking where you can improve upon the time that you did it before, how to go faster, and how to stay mistake-free as much as possible. So, you're thinking that constantly. You're running the different corners through your mind, and just it's kind of like a constant grind all day of thinking what you can do better. At least that's what I'm doing. And then physically, it's not that much duration, so you're not going to be completely taxed, like you would more so at a GNCC or at a full mileage enduro. But the intensity is brought up a level, so it's like intervals, it's like a spikes, and so you still feel it. You definitely know you did something.
What kind of heart rate you think you're hitting in those sprint tests?
I mean, I'm sure it would be, upper, 180s, 190. It could when I almost went over the bars, I'm definitely, I think pegged out sometimes, but at the same sense, part of it's kind of keeping yourself calm. Like on the grass track, I don't feel like it's as high because you have to still ride in a conservative manner, to link up your corners. And so I think it kind of varies. The enduro tests, I would say, for sure have a higher average.
The grass track also, the level of grip wasn't quite as good, and so it being slick, you obviously can't have quite as much intensity, or you'll be making mistakes. And so you really have to the cross test. You're really trying to plan things out and trying to stay hooked up. Versus the enduro test, it was true intensity. I mean, you were maxed out pretty quick. So
it sounds so awesome. Now, granted, that's kind of like a dumb thing to say, but it's one of those deals where, with what they've done, just like with J-Day, they did a really great job marketing-wise. The videos they've put out and what people are saying about the events, they make you want to go ride them. And it's the same thing that's happening now with the full gas sprint enduros. It's the footage that they've put out and what people that have come on the show before you, Bobbitt, and what you're saying now, and what obviously you and Travis Christ are saying. It's creating that desire. You want to go experience this, because we as riders are always like, oh, it's those 10 miles I get when I go to Munster that are like what he's talking about. I want that all the time, where it's like, oh, if I can get that for 25, 30 miles on 2 days. Whoa, like
I really, really enjoyed the event, and I think that that people, if anybody's skeptical about this in any way, they need to clear their mind and they need to go try one of these things. This is a really enjoyable event. physically, I felt more like I had gone to a motocross race afterwards. I didn't have the hard impacts like of a big, jumps or anything like that on my joints.
I wouldn't, because I wouldn't jump anything.
But just as far as like my forearms and my hands and it felt like more like I had gone to a motocross and run 2 or 3 classes and had been, doing short sprints like that, like you would go do at a motocross race. But just enjoyable. The guy did a great job laying out the tests. He went out and did some maintenance overnight before he turned them around. And, we had mud holes, we had rocky, rooty sections, we had uphills, we had downhills. I mean, it was everything you'd see in Enduro. It was traditional Enduro terrain. It did have some fire road type stuff in the Enduro test as well, so it had a variety. But man, it was just a lot of fun and a great variety. And I think this is something we're going to see a lot more of here in America.
Hold on. Well, now you're going to be doing the rest of this series, and we know you're doing the National Enduro Circuit as well. You've had obviously some really good successes the Enduro this year. Kind of take us through what your plans are for that. I mean, obviously do the best you can, but at the same time, you probably have some kind of schedule that you're sticking to, the way that you're training, the way you're mentally trying to stay on top of yourself to come into the game, with that same momentum that you've been carrying through from the past round. Like, what does all that kind of go through in your head, so we could think about it on a peon level?
I mean, like everyone says, they just want to take it one race at a time, and that's the best approach. I mean, really, right now, my next race is Missouri, and I'm looking forward to going there. I've had, good rides there, and done ISDE qualifiers there before, actually, and it's a super fun place, and that's, what I look to do. I look to do well there and, try and go win another race. That's, my main priority. And, stay in the title contention. And, from that, we go to the next race. I don't even know what it is. Like, I couldn't tell you what the next race is after that, because that's kind of how I work. But just go race to race and just do the best I can. That's what I try to do.
Do you change what you train on and the areas you practice at based on where you're going racing next time?
Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even for sprint enduros, I have some different kind of courses and layouts around my house and different kind of special tests that I have set up that I'll go and ride beforehand in Missouri. So I know it's, predominantly single track, kind of a little bit rocky and good clay and some stuff like that. And I'll find similar terrain and go out and ride on that as much as possible and have my enduro set up and, do the kind of riding. I think that's as similar as possible, and that helps me, feel more prepared leading into the weekend's race.
Do you have a different bike setup that you run for the sprint enduros than you do for the traditional national enduros?
I have a little bit different fork setting, and just some clicker changes on my shock, but the fork itself is kind of my GNCC and faster setting. It's a little bit stiffer on the internal side, just because you're more aggressive and some of the bumps get, bigger and you're carrying a lot more speed than what you are really at a single track style enduro.
Brian, I have to ask though, when was the last time you weren't a little bit stiffer on the internal side?
I'm pretty much always there.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I'm internal. It's stiff, bro. It's stiff. No, I heard that, and my insides were like.
Once you turn 40,
anytime it's stiff, it's internal, right?
Once you turn 40, so the first time I went to the doctor after I turned 40, the doctor he checked everything out, and then he looked at me, and he said, "So is there anything else that I can help you with? Anything that may be not working like it used to?" And I was like, really? So this is what happens?
That conversation.
This is the conversation that happens when you turn 40 and you go to the doctor. So.
So that, I mean, like, I would imagine your mechanic probably asked you those same kinds of questions. It's just not in age-wise. It's kind of like, hey, Russ, it's another weekend. Is there anything not working the way you expect it to?
Right.
Next time he asks that, you're going to think about Viagra, though, unfortunately. So we apologize and say thank you at the same time.
Yeah, so Charles will help me with my preload and compression and rebound clickers.
Right,
Well,
right,
I'm letting him know it's coming, too.
right. Sure, he's got some stiffer springs in that van as well.
Hey-o. We can get there. His internal, it's all internal, bro.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The internal's where the stiffness is at.
Got it.
That's where it sets it up.
It's all about flow.
Yeah.
Right.
We could really...
Stiction.
Stiction.
Stiction's important.
Stiction's important.
You don't want to
There you
cavitate too soon.
go. Right. Got it. We got a little off track there.
I love it. So, I didn't see your name on the ISDE teams. Is that...
Yeah, you would have been awesome for Slovakia. I
Team?
mean, this is going to be your kind of terrain.
Do you know if you're going to be on that Wellard club team that we've been seeing a lot of the kind of the pros on?
Honestly, I don't know. I just, I knew I was a candidate for the trophy team this year, and I was, hoping to go for the team and everything, and looking forward to, try and do my best. But just the way the cards kind of fell, not on the team this year, and that's okay. It's, I want USA to do the best they can, and, Auntie, along with the other guys that kind of chose the team, picked the riders that they thought would do the best over there, and that's all right with me. So
So you did 6 days in Slovakia and the last time they were there?
I was there in 2005, and I got a silver there. So that was my second 6 days ever. So I was still in the kind of learning curves there.
Yeah.
I remember it was one of the tougher races I had definitely ever done at the time. I remember trying to stay on time just in the transfer sections, and it was some gnarly logging road transfers, especially, and if you ever go back and look at any coverage, day 5 was when the bottom fell out, and it was just a mud fest and some of the greasiest, slimiest hills I've ever ridden still to date. And I mean, there were people getting stuck on the cross tests that were on muddy hillsides just because there was no traction. You look for any kind of blade of grass there was out there, but so I'll be interested to follow this year's 6 days for sure. And whether or not I'll be there, I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard anything or considered really the Wellard team. So that's still, I guess, up in the air. I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll just see.
Russ would be a great candidate for every time I've raced in Eastern Europe at 6 days. 6 days has a whole different flavor in Eastern Europe.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
In 2002, when I raced the Czech Republic, it was exactly like what he just described Slovakia was like. It rained. It would rain all day, every day, and it was at a ski resort, and so you're going up and down the mountains,
Steep
in
mountains.
the slime all day, and it just I'd never seen so many bikes drop out of the race and people just burning up bikes left and right, and you couldn't even ride in a straight line. And that Eastern Europe mentality, they're old school,
There's some
and they
nasty
want
dudes,
to.
huh?
They want to put a hurting on people, and they want people to feel like they earn something when they get to the finish line every day.
Oh. Well, as we kind of start to wrap it up a little bit for you so you can get back to your real life, 2016 bikes, have you had a chance to ride any of them?
Nope,
Nope.
sure haven't.
Okay. Well, that's no big deal. Bikes on bikes. Is there anything else in the works for 2015 for you guys to do another bikes on bikes? And if so, is there any way that peons like myself could snake themselves a spot?
Yes, there is a version 3.0 coming, and I mean, I don't think yourself really, just judging by your mustache and everything, I just don't think
It's a
that's
facial hair thing
quite
now,
cut
isn't
it.
it?
Yeah.
You guys y'all don't want to carry him all that way anyway.
Really?
Just
He
being
could
honest.
be the camel. he could carry the stuff, some extra stuff.
Oh my god. I'm okay with being the camel.
I mean, we keep it pretty tight knit.
No, I know.
We had Lafferty join us, and that was a good experience. But generally, me, Cole Kirkpatrick, Chris Fillmore, and Nick Farringer are the ones that kind of just really got this thing going, and we love it. It's probably something we'll do for the rest of our lives, and we're going to hopefully do it this year again in Colorado Springs around the time of the adventure tour for KTM. So
right on.
We're going to, actually Crested Butte, sorry about that. But we're going to make some more plans here coming up soon. Cole's getting married, and we're going to kind of have a kind of bike party out in Colorado to celebrate that, and talk about some ridiculous plans while we're doing that.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Ridiculous.
Well, I've got some stuff that I need to tell you about as well at Crested Butte, but because of the fact that we don't talk about it on the show, we're not going to talk about it on the show. So I'm going to talk to you about it after the show, and this is me reminding you to remind me because I'll probably forget to tell you. So
Got it.
There's always that. Well, dude, really appreciate you coming on the show. Sorry that it's been so long. I know we tried a couple times. It just never really worked out. Obviously, you're the professional here. You got a lot of stuff going on in your life. So we definitely appreciate you coming back on. Sorry for keeping you on a little bit longer than normal, but you've always got great stuff to say, and I'm glad that Brian was able to be on and talk with you because you guys have experienced so much together with the ISDE. You guys have now kind of done a lot of the full gas stuff. You've hit that up. And I feel like with this being a qualifier, that those kind of the ISDE and this East Coast qualifier full gas thing kind of go hand in hand. And that's one of the things that Brian and I are going to kind of talk about as we kind of move on to the rest of the show. But just thanks a bunch, dude. We really appreciate you jumping on the show with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, dude. I appreciate you having me back, and it's always a good time.
Bikes on Bikes 3.0. Just throw my name in the hat anytime.
All right.
You guys need You guys need a bitch. I'm in. Just make fun of me the whole time. It's whatever.
All right, we don't allow trikes, dude.
Damn it! Can I? What about a unicycle?
No, those are not. Cool.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there. I like it. All right, man. Well, you take it easy. Thanks again.
All right, guys.
Later, dude.
Take care, Russ.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that's a big point of this is that this was the East Coast qualifier for the ISDE team, for a lot of the club teams. Obviously, we know that the trophy team and the junior trophy team are picked. To Russ's point, we don't know much about the Weller club team, but the other club teams are there. So what did you, as a rider who has qualified for many ISDEs and been and competed, think about this as a qualifier?
I thought it was a great format for qualifying riders for 6 days.
Okay.
Obviously, if a guy's never been to 6 days before, you'd love for him to be able to do an event that has the impound and has the transfers and has the whole show. But the reality is none of that stuff is really that tricky to figure out. The most important thing at 6 days is pure raw speed. It really is. That
sprint
determines
ability.
Who personally does well and what countries do well, what teams
Ryan
do well.
Sipes.
And it's all about pure speed. The first 6 days I went to was in the early 90s, and it was shocking to me, the speed that those guys had. And you see it now still. It's amazing the level of intensity and level of speed these guys are at. But the Sprint Enduro was just a great way to qualify people because there were no other mistakes you could make. The only scores there were tests on the clock, and that didn't lie. I mean, unless somebody had a bike problem or something odd, it was all about pure speed. And there you had to have speed on the cross test and you had to have speed on the enduro test. And when you look at the guys who qualified this weekend, they take, 2 people out of class 1, 2 out of class 2, 2 out of class 3, which are all engine size classes.
Right.
And then they take 1 senior plus 40, and they take 1 woman. Okay, so they take 8 people out of the East Coast qualifier, and they take 8 people out of the West Coast qualifier. Well, the 8 people that qualified this weekend, the guys that qualified out of class 1, 2, and 3, I mean, they're all fast. I mean, a bunch of missiles qualified.
Awesome.
They really did. And sometimes they're guys that you necessarily, if you live in Texas, you may not have heard of this individual who may not be concerned with necessarily running and racing on the national scene, but he's concerned about racing in his local circuit, enjoying racing the right way with his friends, and then wants to go represent his country. And a perfect example is there's 2 cousins from, I believe, Connecticut, Ben and John Kelly. And these 2 guys are absolutely on rails. And when they reorganized this weekend after the first 2 tests and reorganized by overall results, Ben Kelly, I believe, was starting 5th. So he literally got moved up in front of most of the pro riders. This guy is so quick. And his cousin John was just a few riders behind him as well.
That's insane.
And that's the kind of speed. And these guys are literally, like I said, he's getting moved in front of guys that you read about every week that are finishing, towards the front at the GNCCs and National Enduros.
Right.
There's that kind of sprinter speed that's showing up for these things. And looking at the collection of talent that was there this weekend, being a qualifier and a sprint enduro, I was mentioning to you before the show started, there were a lot of motorcycles there with number 1 and number 2 number plate backgrounds on their bikes. And so there were a lot of national guys, and you knew who they were, and they had their national number plates on. But then there were just a bunch of guys that had 1s and 2s on their bikes. Well, those 1s and 2s, that means that homie's the champ somewhere.
Right.
He may be the champ in Tennessee, or maybe the champ in West Virginia, or the champ in Connecticut, or whatever. But just the collection of guys that showed up. These guys weren't just running 1s and 2s on their bikes because they had a big head. They were running those because they earned those in some circuit somewhere. And when you bring that collection of people together, man, there's some serious speed, and there was a whole bunch of it this weekend.
A lot of talent.
Is it something that should be? Now, I've ridden the qualifier in Idaho, had a shit ton of fun. Those are some awesome trails, absolutely amazing. Beat the shit out of me. It was a great time. Anybody who hasn't, definitely go out there and ride that event. But is it something to pay attention to see how riders that qualify on the East Coast versus how riders qualify on the West Coast do at 6 days? Because qualifying, and I've never qualified. I could say that. I've done 1 qualifier and I've never qualified. But there has been some discussion over how well the qualifiers work. And you've, like I said, you've qualified a bunch. You've done this a bunch. So
I've been going to qualifiers since the early 90s on and off. There were, 5-year periods where I didn't go for family or business or whatever. But on and off for many years, I've been going to qualifiers. And I've been to a lot of really good qualifiers where I felt like we were really qualifying the right people. And then I've been to a lot of qualifiers that even though there was a lot of hard work put into, I felt like we're not going to qualify the right people. And the thing that we just have to, the people who are putting on the qualifiers here need to realize is that 6 days nowadays, there's no surprise checkpoints. They're not trying to make you late to a check, okay? Now, they may have a tight check where there's some technical stuff and you screw up, you might end up being late, but they're not trying to surprise you in any way like an old school enduro. It's all about making it through, and they might have really difficult hills and creeks and whatnot. I mean, they may have AA only terrain getting to a checkpoint, but they're going to give you enough time where if you don't screw up, you should make it there on time to be able to get gas and get a drink without being late to the check. And when you go to a qualifier here in the U.S., where just recently in the last few years, I went to a qualifier where I showed up at the first check 20 minutes early, went the same speed, got to the second check 20 minutes early. Third check, went the same speed, I showed up 3 minutes late. And that's ridiculous. And because those 3 minutes get added to all your test times. And if somebody had some inside local information, or if somebody just had a higher trail pace and only dropped 1 point or didn't drop any points, he might have been slower by 10 seconds in every test, but he'll still beat the other guy that should have been on the team because he didn't lose as many route points.
Right.
And that's not realistic to what 6 days is these days.
Okay.
6 days is about having that pure raw speed in the enduro and cross tests. And you still have to have good technical ability. You still have to be able to get through all the gnarly stuff. But there's no surprises in 6 days. 6 days is straightforward. It's you've got to get through this, and this. But then 6 times a day, you've got set your hair on fire and rip your fingernails out and ride like an absolute madman, and because you're getting time to the thousandths of the second. And you'll go through a test and think you blew up every berm and hit it the best you could do it. And you'll look at the overall results at the end of the day, and there might be 4 other people that finished on the same second as you. And, and some of the superheroes might have beat you by 30 seconds or more through that test, even though you thought you killed it. So it's all about speed, and when we have qualifiers, that's what we need to focus on these days.
Right on.
So
you were talking about Ben and John, the cousins.
Yes.
Apparently they're Northeast guys.
Yes, they are.
And they're Rippas because they may be in other series as well, but one of the guys in the chat room is so they do run the J-Day series.
They do.
So,
okay. Yeah, they were on the 6 days team with me last
that would
year.
say a
and
lot
that was
about speed, though. I mean, because we've seen that with the J-Day
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
how like they are.
That was the first time I met them last year. Super nice dudes, and really enjoyed hanging out with them in Argentina. And but I have seen the 2 of those boys lay down some serious speed, especially when it comes to short sprints like that. Really, really impressive stuff. And there's a laundry list of guys like that. I mean, I see guys every year I've gone that someone that I haven't heard of previously suddenly comes out, and it's like a rocket fired out of them. They're going so fast. So there's an impressive amount of talent all over this
Brian
country.
Pierce comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Brian
Whew,
Pierce,
that guy.
I don't know how you haven't qualified. It's amazing. But no, there's a lot of really fast guys around the country, and you get to meet and see a lot of this talent when you go to a qualifier. And the U.S. team, the last few years, even though we haven't won the world trophy, if you look at the number of people on the U.S. team and where we all finish, the U.S. team the last several years has pretty easily been the strongest team in the world as far as our total team talent. Even our slowest rider will still be in the top, third of all the people racing.
Either one shitty day for one too many riders, like a mechanical or a stupid wreck or whatever, or, like last year with Zach Osborne,
Yeah,
being out after the first day.
Last year we had there were mechanicals across the board, but trophy team we've had some
dust.
what do
they call it? They called it something.
Yeah, we had some difficulties last year, and losing Zach Osborne on the first day obviously is a major detriment. And I'm not saying that that the top teams that have won, like France the last few years, I mean, when you're talking about just 6 guys, they have 6 guys that are unbelievably fast. But when you look at their whole 30-rider team, once you get out of that top, 6, 8, 10 guys from France, then they drop off much harder than the U.S. team drops off. We have a much more balanced team from top to bottom than any other country in the world.
Internal stiffness.
There you go.
So,
and there you go. And we're gonna win the trophy team soon. We're gonna win soon.
We have to. I mean, it's
plain and simple. The guys running the team, from the guys at
You
AMA,
can tell that's their goal.
to the guys at KTM, Robert Pierce and Auntie and Chuck at AMA. We're putting together solid teams. There's a lot of prestige in being on the 6 days team these days, and I've seen that go up and down over the years. How bad people wanted to be on the team, and anyway, we are very fast, very prepared, and we are gonna win the trophy, the world trophy, sometime soon.
nice.
So to finish it up, we'll talk about ISDE. Best after party ever
At the ISDE that you've been to, obviously. What was it? You don't have to tell us specifics, but what was it? And maybe a couple details of what could have made it so amazing.
Wow,
Couple good after
There's
parties.
a couple of good ones, and there's a few I don't remember a whole lot of. So yeah, they're typically there's typically 2 events going on at 6 days. There's the 6 days of racing, and then there's 6 days of partying.
Yep.
For any of you people watching and listening, if you want to talk about an epic vacation for people that are motorcycle enthusiasts, buy the AMA package and go to 6 days with the team. Stay in the same hotel, stay in a different hotel, but there is typically a pretty impressive beer tent at the pits. And there is a party going on a regular basis.
Yeah, it was awesome. We would in Germany in 2012 with Jason Hooper and myself. It was Jason Hooper and I's first 6 days, and I think we got to every test, and there was like, "There's a beer tent. There's a beer tent." We were like, "Oh my god!" So we just had to buy
tents
beer
and air horns.
at every
Tents,
one.
air horns, and flags.
It was so stinking exciting. I was like, "This is what racing is supposed to be like." I was like, "Why can't we have more shit like this?"
It's an awesome experience. It is a great vacation. I would have no problem if I wasn't on the team one year, still going just to be a part of the event.
What sucks
and
is
go
this
to
is
these
the year to
awesome
go.
countries.
Slovakia would be epic. Germany was great. So I can only imagine another Eastern European kind of country like that would still be just
there's
like
gonna be
partiers,
hill
goof
climbs.
guy, just crazy. Like the terrain would be epic to watch.
It's going to be epic this year. There'll be places to watch and spectate where I guarantee it will just be almost humanly impossible to get your motorcycle through. And they'll probably have guys out there with 20-foot long hooks pulling you up and through things, because you just get as far as you can, and then they pull you through the rest of the way. And there'll be 1,000 drunk people there blaring their air horns, screaming and yelling at you with a beer in the other hand while you're doing it.
I have a picture of the guys on the Seat Time site from when I went in 2012. There were some dudes that had a chainsaw with the blade gone, it was just the motor. Oh man, they were just drinking beer in one hand and chainsaw in the other, just
I've seen that a couple times.
I was like, yes, those are my boys.
But good,
just couldn't talk to him because German.
Absolutely. Yeah, well,
who does that?
Right. Well, all you have to say is beer, right?
Yeah.
So, but a quality experience. If any of y'all ever need a suggestion for a good, and it works too with the wives, because you'll be like, "Hey, honey, I'm gonna take you to Europe."
Ding 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 ding. Winning.
We are gonna swing by this motorcycle race for a couple of days, but I
think you might be
still
better
going to Europe.
You might be selling it better than I think most of us can.
Right?
Well, see, what I did is I went and rode my dirt bike for 7 days on the Baja Peninsula, and we ended in Cabo, and I flew my wife to Cabo. So she was okay being alone with 3 kids in this house for 7 days because I flew her to Cabo for 4 days.
That's the same thing we did. We flew the wives down for the last 3 days we were there. So that's good. Good work. That's how it's done.
Yeah, we're smarter than we look.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
the way it goes down. All right, cool. Well, this has been episode 165. I wanted to keep it kind of regimented, if you will, on guests, because I thought that there was a lot of information, just like I was saying, with the ISDE kind of stuff that's been going on. We've been talking about the full gas sprint enduros for a long time. You having all the knowledge now of going to ISDE so many times, of course, now being able to go to a full gas sprint enduro, which is also the qualifier.
And another ISDE.
Ooh. Because you qualified.
Because I qualified.
Yeah. So did you, does that mean you're in?
I'm in. I got a guaranteed spot. I got one of the guaranteed spots.
Well, congratulations.
So
that's what I'm talking about. E4. 2 years in a row?
Yep. My 12th time.
How long are you going to try to go, on the senior team?
I don't know. Seems like I say every year is my last one, but it never is. So, we'll see. You know, as long as I
when I officially am qualifying for the senior team in 4 years, would that be it for you? 5 years.
If you, I wouldn't want to take your spot. I would have to. I'd probably have to step away.
He's in 5th and I won, but let's just let Pierce go. No, it'll still never happen. There's no way I could ever get my act together enough to ride enough to up the ante. So shit happens when you party naked.
Never know. All about effort, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
And some talent.
Woo, my goodness. So I could see that people are now putting babies to sleep. The wives are home. It's getting crazy over here. So thank you very much for tuning in to Seat Time. This has been episode 165. We did have Russell Bobbitt on a little bit earlier. This is Brian Storrie. He does own Adventure Moto here in McKinney, Texas. You can find out more about that at adventuremotoktm.com.
AdventureMotoKTM.com for all your KTM and Husqvarna needs you might have.
Needs of the needs.
Yeah.
And of course, we are brought to you by Fly Racing. Now I'm screwing it up. We're brought to you by Fly Racing. You can find out more about those guys at flyracing.com. They did just release their kinetic mesh line for the summer. So
got
obviously
some sexy
for us,
new colors for summer.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got some bright
Some that you
like
wanna wear
green
and some that-
green and orange.
we're going to be questionable, but we'll just wear it anyway.
Yeah, I think everybody should wear them all. They're pretty sexy.
I'm in.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm louder and the brighter it is probably the faster I'm going to put it on. So, or take it off. No? All right, we'll keep it on. So, of course, Kenda Tire USA. You can find out more about those guys at kendatire.com. Cool to see them stepping up and sponsoring more big events like the Full Gas Sprint Enduro. They are the title sponsor there.
Full Gas
so.
rocks. I was impressed.
Full Gas
Everybody go
rocks.
try it.
And Stillwell Performance, stillwellperformance.com. Obviously, I will have big reviews on the Seat Time website. We'll probably try to do some video work as well. Once I do get to finally ride the bike, we've got that in there. But Alan Stillwell, super great guy to work with. Like I said, KendaTire.com. You can check out their comparison chart and figure out which one of those tires that they have will work best for you. They do have a plethora, putting a lot more effort into the off-road side of things. So I think that's a good chance for all you guys out there riding in the off-road scene. StillwellPerformance.com. As I say, go on there, fill out their contact us form, tell them what you're trying to learn more about, what you think you might need to try to do to get your bike to perform better in the type of riding that you're doing, and I know that they're going to be able to steer you in the correct direction. So we really appreciate them supporting us, so please go support them for supporting the sport. And Seat Time, we are on the Facebooks, we are on Twitters, we are on the Instagrams, we're on all of those fun social features where you can find us, you can tweet us real hard, you can friend us, you can like us, you can do whatever you want. Just, I guess because unless it's Twitter, you have to keep your clothes on. After that, do what you got to do. That's
Whatever
the way it
happens.
is. Yeah, I know. Episode 165. Thank you for coming in, Brian. Appreciate it. Let's go have one more shitty margarita and call it a night. So thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Peace.